Hey y'all. My guest today is absolutely one of my favorite people in the entire world. Um, and I'm so excited to be able to share some of the things that she has going on right now. So, without further ado, please meet musical theater artist, dancer, performer extraordinaire, Quiantae Thomas Mapenzie.
Hello. That's so funny because I'm like waiting for my stuff to get approved from the court.
Yes, your new name.
Yeah, Quiantae Mapenzie Johnson.
Ah, yes, 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 yes.
Yes.
So, newly. Newly.
Newly.
Yes. First of all, I say that she's one of my favorite people because Keontae came into my life, and I don't think she knows this, at a very pivotal time. I was newly appointed as a dance professor, an assistant professor of dance at Alabama State University in Montgomery, Alabama. And that was my first full time appointment. Okay.
Wow.
I had just finished my master's at Jacksonville University in Florida. And I was living in Ohio. I was working, doing all the things, but in a low residency program at that university, and moving down south. Okay. Yes, let's all pause for the cause on that one. It was a complete culture shock. Although I went to Howard University, the culture shock that I experienced because going to school at an HBCU, but one specifically in the South, was completely different than what my experience was, obviously as a student, but now as an educator, as a dance professor. And so I was extremely grateful to have a Keontae in my class because not only was she refreshing, but also she reminded me almost every day why I chose to do at the time what I was doing. And so my first question to you, you're born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, a princess daughter of the South. Yeah. And you chose to go to an HBCU for dance, and you could have gone anywhere. So what was one of the main reasons why you chose to major in dance and then also chose to major in dance at an HBCU?
Wow. Let's see. Okay. Why I wanted to major in dance? Well, I grew up in musical theater, music. I grew up in dance in general,
Mm-hmm.
and it was really the only thing that I kind of look forward to within the arts. Like I can sing, I can act, I can dance, but dancing was just like that's hitting it on the
Yeah.
nose. So going to high school, I had a teacher, Miss Rhonda Price. She was the first, I think the first Black woman to graduate from the BFA dance program at UGA. So she was very classical dance, ballet, like really put it on us.
The technique.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, we were so scared. I loved her, but we were just like she was just like this
It
is
was a
what's
good
going
fear.
on. Yeah. And ironically, I knew her. I trained with her when I was in elementary school as well. She was like a part of this production I was a part of, but I didn't know she was going to be the teacher at Carver, the school that I went
Mm.
to. So we had her, and then we had Miss Carla Watley, who was a principal dancer with Dallas Black Dance Theater.
Yes.
So she was like, "Yeah, you can go anywhere. You can do this. You can do that." I was just like, "What?" Like she was the first person to be like, "You can really make a career out of just
Mhm.
being a performer." She was the person that was like, "Yeah, I danced professionally for years,
Decades.
and that was period. That was it. It
Yeah.
wasn't like I had to do this and that. It was just like you can do this, and it can be great, and it can,
It can be your life.
yeah." And so that was the first time I realized that. So then graduating or coming up on graduation, there was a couple schools I was interested in. Um, and I think it was kind of a situation that I kind of just let it fall into my lap in a sense. I was went on college fairs, I was went on college tours with my family, with my mom and college fairs and stuff, just growing up in Atlanta public schools, which
Hmm.
is a district that really is prominent in like our further education. And it just kind of happened to where I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to these auditions in around Georgia, around Atlanta, and if whatever works, that's what's gonna be. So I went to a Brenau University audition, I went to Kennesaw audition, and then I went to Alabama State University audition. And the other schools I auditioned for or I applied for, they were out of state. I think I did like NYU, UArts, but they were just so far out of my reach that
As far as distance?
distance and just like possibility. It wasn't like I didn't feel like it was something that could really happen. If that makes sense. Because also just like growing up, during that time, I just didn't think it was realistic, and I also didn't know what the benefit was going to be either. Like, you don't see a lot of people around you that's going to be different schools. So went to Brenau University's audition. It was a thing. Went to Kennesaw State's. It was a thing. Then I went to Alabama State's audition, and I walked in the door with my mom, and we were greeted by students in all black, and it was like a welcome.
Welcome into Black excellence.
It felt like I was like not comparing it to Wakanda, but you know how people think of like just like I want to experience Wakanda. It was like that, and I never been to Montgomery, Alabama before, so to experience that from the get go, it was like, And then the audition, everyone was black and on their toes. And ironically, a lot of us that came from Atlanta, we kind of trained together as kids. But we didn't know it, of course.
Right.
So that was just like so eye-opening because I had already been a part of a professional company in Atlanta. So seeing how I fit into that and just seeing how I could further my training, it felt like that was a place that just felt good. Like it just felt so good just being there auditioning. It reminded me of how it was at Youth Ensemble of Atlanta, how it was just more so about community and not really about competition. So that was very important to me. I didn't really know it. It was just like, I'm having a blast.
Yeah.
That's how it felt. So I was like, yeah, that's where I'm going. If I get offered the scholarship and everything, that's where I'm going, like hands down. So it wasn't really anywhere else that would have been able to compete with Alabama State during that time. At least. So
absolutely. No, and I'm grateful that you made that decision, right? So I think that it's also, so I went to an HBCU, obviously, Howard, and being a dance professor that went to an HBCU and studied dance and had a professional career, and then to be able to be in a space that I got to do the same thing that my professors did for me, in a BFA program at an HBCU. What was your experience like being able to learn from people who had done some of the things that you wanted to be doing and that also looked like you? Because I think that the idea that there's a tangible reality that's attached to seeing someone that comes before you do the thing that you want to do or a similar path, I think that's extremely impactful. So how was that for you?
It was like freshman year, it was just get straight off the boat, just trying to just enjoy the moment of it being a first year BFA program. And all of my professors at that time were all males. And I had grown up, I had training from male professor or male like dance teachers and everything, and some women as well. But I feel like with having 3 men as my professors, that was just what it was. So the training was not different, but it was kind of just what came with it. So then when you got there, it was like like, let's go meet her. So me and my best friend Sam, like, we gotta go meet her. Period. And then she's dark skinned and she got afro and it's great, lovely. So it was like we were already on our P's and Q's, we got to call it. But when you came there, it was like, now we can really see where this is going. And ironically, you came in our senior year.
Your senior year, yeah.
So it just worked out to our advantage. Especially because we were able to talk about things that sometimes maybe the male professor didn't understand.
Yeah.
So having you there, it was kind of like, we don't even have to tell you. You already know what it is.
Yeah.
So that was very special to us. but I felt like it gave just ample amount of opportunity for us, because I learned, of course, going to New York, that what we have at Alabama State is not the norm.
No.
So, granted, we don't have a huge dance facility. Granted, we don't have all the
Or multiple dance facilities.
Right. We only have one, and only 4 professors and everything. But at the same time, going to other universities and seeing what they had is kind of like, as a Black artist, this is what if anybody, needed to get, not even the tough skin, but get I thought, the armor of just like, I can really do anything. And it's interesting because I went to UART, so I did like a kind of, I would call it a study abroad, there, and I was just there like learning different choreography and taking classes, and I saw their facility, and they had 20 studios or whatever, or all these different teachers, and I was like, dang, I wish we had that at Alabama State. But now I had to think about it. I'm just like, no, everything that we have or had was meant to be for the amount of students that we had, for the type of students that we had, for just our different journeys. It was all necessary, because now when I go to certain auditions, they're like, oh, she's from Atlanta and she went to Alabama State. And then in my freestyle, you see that what you want on stage is what is already instilled in me. You can't teach it to me.
Come on.
For real.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, because I feel like throughout my journey of artistry or dance, I was able to be myself, but also learn my kind of style. And that came from going to a school where I could explore myself in its totality and not just be one type of a dancer or one type of a person in general. So, yeah.
If that's not an HBCU dance commercial, I don't know what is. But I mean, and I can't agree more. That was actually my experience as well, going to an HBCU. Like the beauty. Yeah, we didn't have the best facilities. We didn't have the best schedule. We did, like, there were so many things that more contemporary, more updated universities and programs have. But the wealth of knowledge, the experience, and I like to think of it as resistance training, where it's like, okay, if I was able to persevere under these conditions, look out, world. And not that we have to always, be met with strife and struggle and challenge. But if this is the reality, just also know the other side of it is going to be fierce. And so, which brings me to, you have done quite a bit, ma'am, since graduating. Yeah. Yeah. You've been on tour. You've been on tour with award-winning Broadway production of Hamilton.
Yeah.
So what was that like? And I mean, you were on tour for how long? With 3 years. So I just want to say, like, there are people who audition for, when I say years, I'm not talking about 1 and 2 and 3. I'm talking about like several years, 4 and 5 and 6 years before they get a Broadway gig or a tour. And Miss Ma'am, a year after graduating, what was that process like in terms of you deciding that you were going to go? Because at first you wanted to do concert dance. And then I remember getting a phone call at about 2 a.m. in the morning. And you're like, well, I think I really want to do this. And I was like, well, girl. So what was that transition like for you to be inspired to try something outside of what was being expected of you, and then also like really having the audacity to just go for it, and the preparation that it took to get there? Because you nailed it, clearly.
Now that I'm older, I realize that it was me knowing that I had nothing to lose, and knowing that I didn't know these exact words, but I knew that I'm not in control anyway. So you better get out the way, because I was in the way. I was in the way. I was very much in a space where I like to plan my life and how everything was going to happen. So backtrack a little bit. I remember Dr. Metcalf, Mr. Metcalf was my professor, was my advisor. And he put me into his office one time and he was like, um, one of the choreographers that came in to do some choreography for the school was like, they were talking and I expressed me wanting to do musical theater and do Broadway eventually after concert dance.
Mm-hmm.
And he pulled me into his office and he was like, you never thought about doing theater or doing like commercial dance? And he was like, and he was so serious. He was very sincere. And he
Mm-hmm.
was like, they look for your type, like your body type and everything. And I thought that was like him saying I didn't have a body type for concert dance.
No,
But he was really serious, like just like, yeah, like
you could do
you
this.
could do this. And I was just like, I didn't think about it. Oh, okay, I'm gonna go on by my way.
Well, let me tell you something, because I might still have the video. I'll have to find it. So, one of the finals that I gave your
Um,
senior year was that you had to choreograph and you could choose any music that you wanted. You chose, I believe you chose, what did you choose?
Say musical.
Yes. Yeah. And you had the nerve to sing.
Yeah, I did.
And so like hearing you recall your, processing after the fact is interesting just because I think as your professors, we kind of saw this progression happening, but it's even better that you came to that conclusion for yourself. So please
Yeah,
do share.
that's funny. I mean, I saw myself going in a certain journey, and it was I'm going to do um concert dance, and I'm going to be so good at concert dance, and someone's going to pull me from concert dance and bring me on Broadway.
Mm,
That's what I thought because I was told that you couldn't do both. Like even in high school, I was told you couldn't do both. In college, I was told you couldn't do both. Like you had to be
one or
focused
the
on one
other.
or the other. But then my senior year, I think it was Mr. Metcalf who was like, "Yeah, they have vocal lessons for dancers or for movers." I was like, "Okay, I was the only dancer to take the class."
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Okay, let me just see how this goes." But that summer, I was planning to go to this certain dance company, and it just didn't work out. Like it did not work
I
out.
remember.
It
I
did not work
remember.
out, and it was so
And you tried your absolute best.
it was so I was so heartbroken because I did everything right and it was nothing that I could do about it. It just was not for me. It wasn't for them to have me and it wasn't for me to have. Period.
Mm.
So I remember I was I was staying at my cousin's house an hour away from where the studio was. I was really, really on the hustle and bustle. And I remember calling you and I was like, so had a conversation and
It didn't go well.
and this is just what it is. And I was just like, I don't know what to do. And you was like, girl, you got so many scholarships. What about those? And I was
Yeah.
like, well, I got this one, I got that one. He was like, well, let's go. Let's go. So I think I ended up reaching out to my other professors and asking them if they didn't have any friends to stay with in New York City
Yep.
to go to Ronald K. Brown intensive. I had an
Mm-hmm.
apprentice scholarship.
Apprenticeship. Yep.
I was like, okay, so I'm gonna just, call around and see anywhere I can stay. And I was able to find somewhere. And while I was there, Mr. Metcalf hooked me up with one of his friends who had a couch I could stay on. He lived in the Bronx. This intensive was in Brooklyn. I didn't realize that Brooklyn and the Bronx, it says 45-minute drive, but in New York, you take the train and it's not the same thing. So I was like, oh, that's perfect. I'm gonna get a job in Brooklyn and work, whatever.
Yeah.
So that was my first time like in New York, like being there. And I loved it. I was just living. Oh my God. It was the best because I was like, I'm here for something that I am really chasing after. And I
Mm-hmm.
also didn't expect me to be in New York that soon. I had just graduated that
Yeah.
May. So that was completely like, okay. And I used to always say I used to feel like I was in a Spike Lee movie because I felt like my every day felt like a journey. Even still now, like, I just feel like I'm in a
Like on that
long,
skateboard.
yeah, yeah. I just feel like I'm in a Spike Lee movie where it's just always is out of my control.
Mm.
So basically, I was in the intensive, and the guy that Mr. Metcalf helped me like connect with and stay on his couch. He was on Broadway, and he was like, "Yeah, like, what do you want to do?" I was like, "Well, I want to do concert dance, and eventually I want to do Broadway, maybe." And he was like, "Well, you know, they have auditions like every day." I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"What?" Meanwhile, I was told that I wouldn't be able to be seen in auditions from people who didn't know what it is now.
Right.
Um, and because I was in equity. So I was like, okay, I'll just go to the audition. Sure. End up being seen at multiple auditions.
And they loved you.
My very first, and I didn't realize this until maybe a couple months ago, my very first audition, like freelance commercial audition, I booked. That day I didn't book it, but I came back to another like open call, and I was seen, and I ended
Mm-hmm.
up booking it. And I'm still connected with that director till to this day.
So
But I didn't
listen,
know.
I just have to pause because the level of persistence and the level of audacity that it takes to say, okay, this didn't work out the way that I thought that it was going to. I didn't calculate this in the way that that was expected, but I'm going to keep pushing. Not only am I going to keep pushing, but if it turns into something else, I'm going to be even hungrier for whatever that next thing
Yeah,
is.
and I think the reason why didn't
Because you didn't have an agent.
have the agent, because that summer that I left, I remember I was crying to my mom, and it was weird. I never would cry on the plane or like cry like leaving home,
Mm-hmm.
and after a while, me and her realized that, oh, you were crying because you knew you weren't like coming back home. And I was like, I had no idea why I was crying.
Yep.
But I was like,
It was the
at Atlanta
realization of that.
Airport, I was like, I am not coming back. I got 2 suitcases and that's it. And I'm not coming back. And I don't have a plan to come back to Atlanta. So it was really just like, I'm up here, I'm gonna work with the connections that I have and see what happens. And that's exactly what I did. And it worked. And it was a struggle, but I was so grateful for it because it was I like being on my own, like independent wise. So I didn't have anyone depending on me. I didn't have to answer to nobody. I could wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning and go stand outside and go to an audition, and I didn't have no one pressing me. And it was cool, but I think it was the fact that in Atlanta it wasn't like that. I couldn't
Mm.
just wake up one morning, go online and see what auditions were available, or I just
It
couldn't
was
do that.
the access that you
Yeah.
had in New
So it
York.
was just like I had to be here. And there's so many opportunities. So am I gonna wait for an agent to then put me in the room? Or am I going to figure out the non-union route and make a name for myself before I
Yeah.
even get an agent? And that's what ended up happening. So when I got an agent, um, it was just like, oh, they already know who you are.
Yeah, you've done the work.
I was doing the work before I even knew what the work was. I didn't even know that was the work. I
Yeah.
just felt like no one's telling me because also I'm going into these rooms where it's the majority. I'm the minority. No one is looking like me in these
Hmm.
auditions. So
When you say no one's looking like you, what do you mean by that?
I'm the only black person in the audition at that point in time. And the only black person that's here at 3 a.m. staying up and being here in the line. First one on the non-union list for an
Mm.
audition. First of all, I don't even know what this musical is called. I never even heard
You're
of this
just
thing.
there.
I just know it is on Broadway or it may be going to Broadway or it's something. That's all I know. I wasn't a musical theater like fiend. Like I wasn't like this. So
You were learning on the
I
job,
was
quote unquote.
learning the spot. I
Yeah.
was learning on the spot. I didn't know what half the things even meant. Like what is it called when they typecast? I didn't know what that was. I'm like, well, they're gonna cat. So you mean to tell me that they're going to tell me they're gonna give my headshot back because I don't look like the type for this
Right.
show.
Before you even get to sing or dance.
I'm like, well, how many black shows are on Broadway? Not a lot. So that means I'm a real minority.
Yeah.
And then when you learn, oh, they have to have you in there because they need a token person, then you learn, that's a different level of auditioning.
Yeah.
So it's been even after coming off of tour.
So let me pause you because we
Yes.
got to go.
Yes.
What was the process like of going from the non-equity audition room to being on tour for Hamilton?
Okay, so Okay, I graduated May
of 2018.
2018. I got to New York somehow around August, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I booked Hairspray from a non-union call. I was a featured performer, whatever. It like the Dynamites in Hairspray. Didn't even know what that was, but I knew they were the girls that singing in the little salon.
Yes.
Got an agent from there because on break, we had a 10-minute break. I went up to the director. I was like, hey, I went up to him. Hey, how do you get an agent? He's like, you booked this without an agent? Yeah. He's like, I don't even have an agent. I don't have an agent. How do I get an agent? He's like, oh, after you send me your resume. Okay, cool. I'm in the kitchen with my other cast members, and they're helping me put a resume together because my dance concert resume
It does not translate. Yeah.
And also my Atlanta, Georgia, Montgomery resume does not transfer to
New York. Yes.
So that was a thing. So then we finished Hairspray. He like a week later, he sets me up with two different casting agencies, or not casting agencies. Talent agencies.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a meeting with one of them and it worked. I got hired. What is it?
Signed
on the spot. And it went from there. And so then maybe a month later, I was already auditioning for Hamilton. I went in once and I got typecasted out. So mind you, I'm at every audition. I don't care what it is. At that point I was only working on the weekends. So during the week, my job was auditioning. And I got typecasted out, and then my agent put me submitted me for an invited call. Invited call. At this point, I'm like, I'm gonna get typecasted out again. So I'm gonna just go in here and have a good time, whatever.
Take a good class.
Yes. And I was also hearing other people talk about it, like, yeah, I've been in for this, blah blah blah. This is that, whatever. I'm just here to have a good time. So went in there and it was a long audition. And that's when I learned, invited auditions are different from ECC auditions.
Absolutely.
Granted, ECC auditions can turn into an invited call or can play as an invited call.
But they start off very different.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the audition was with the associate choreographer, Stephanie Clements, who I love dearly, literally look up to her. Mm-hmm. She held the audition like a class. It was just so filled with so much information, and I thought she really nurtured us in this little bitty time. And also, I have class and audition in a way of it's between me and the choreographer. No one else around me really matters because I'm here to gain information from the people on that side.
Right.
So the audition went great, and they told us they were looking for people for Bootcamp, which Bootcamp is where they teach you different numbers in the show to see if you can keep up with it, and you put on the list, and they're going to hire you from that list potentially. Mm-hmm. So did that initial audition. I had about maybe 4 auditions after that, callbacks after that. From there, got a callback, got a offer to do the
workshop,
the boot camp. Did the boot camp, did it for a week. It was great. I saw Hamilton 4 times in a row, and they gave us free tickets.
Yes.
And so then after that, they tell you, all right, thank you so much. It's basically a week of auditioning, basically.
I remember talking to you during that week. And one, you were talking about how your body was experiencing a level of shock just because it wasn't so much that you weren't used to dancing, but it was the type of dancing that you were having to do, because theatrical dancing versus concert dance is different, and it requires a different muscle for you to exercise. And you had not at that point yet strengthened that muscle. Yes. And I know that as a child. And that was it had been omitted. That was a different level. Very different. But thankfully I had that endurance from a child, but it was still so the boot camp is over. The boot camp is over. And then it's summertime and I'm back at work and I'm just like, okay, well, we're just gonna sit and wait and keep auditioning. Keep auditioning. And that summer, I went through a time where I was up for a part on some tour, and I really wanted it. I was like, "Oh, I'm getting further and further in callback. I really want it." And I remember boo-hoo crying I didn't get it, and I was like, "Oh my god, I cannot believe it!" And it was just crazy. It was madness. I was just like hysterical. And then I go on equity.com, and I see that now I can be
union because I did the
Mhm.
boot camp.
Right.
Didn't know I had a whole equity status because I did one boot camp. Didn't
Yep.
know that. I just called and was just like, hey, it says I got this or whatever in the mail, whatever. So then
So this goes back to one, these are at least three different times where you did research. You went to someone, you used your network, you asked the director of the show that you were in, hey, how do I get an agent? And then utilize your agency to get you into the boot camp. And then utilize the access that you had now to equity information. So like, don't discount the information that is available to you, regardless of what level that you're on. Okay.
Absolutely.
Continue.
But yeah, so then I went on there and I saw some more ECCs, just like different auditions, and I see Hamilton. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go back in because clearly they don't lost my information.
I mean,
They don't lost
it's worth putting it again.
They don't lost it. So I went to the ECC. Mind you, I had just went through the whole process.
And I remember the phone call not too long after this, and you were like, I killed it. I nailed it. When they came back into the room for their final showings, like I was on point. Like I remember you were very, very confident.
I went into the initial ECC and I said hi to the casting, said hi to the choreographer, and I was like, "Hey, I have to go. I have work." I said, "Y'all, anyway, y'all can give my agent an appointment, whatever." I said, "Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We're so glad you came in."
Mm-hmm.
Do the invited call, do all the things all over again, all the things all over again, and I just knew that it was mine. Like I knew it was mine, not only because I did the boot camp, but I used what I learned at the boot camp to audition. It wasn't I knew that the eyes were on me because I had already done the boot camp. So I couldn't slack. I had to really show up and show up. And ironically, that was the summer that I changed my eating. So I looked different. I looked different and I sounded different. I wasn't eating dairy. I wasn't doing so the vocal advisor was like, yo, you sound very different. I mean, it's like, well, I've been auditioning a lot since then. I've been, just, so I felt like I looked like I improved and I had grown since the last time they saw me.
So you took it upon yourself after graduating. It wasn't enough just, okay, I got this degree and I'm learning how to move in this new genre of performance, but also you realize like, hey, there are some things that I need to edit about my lifestyle so that I can be even further prepared and fine tune my instrument to be prepared for this journey.
Having to figure out the mental body dysmorphia of the different foods that I was eating. I just didn't like that feeling at all. Like I just hated it.
Like after eating something, then the next day you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so bloated. And then like, wait, what do I need to do?
It was a lot that went on with that. So I just went cold turkey. I was like, I guess I had to cut all this out. Just cut everything out. And growing up down south and having a certain type of food and moving up north.
Everything has bacon in it.
Yeah. So it's also like, and I like to cook. So I'm like, do I trust the meat that I'm buying from the closest grocery store to me? Is this real food? Is this that like it was a lot of things that went into play that was a real like just a mind maze of just like, do I really want to go through this again? Do I really want to be sick or do this or have a cold or all the things? So I guess it was really for me that I had to just change how I was eating. And also I think leaving your environment shifts your mindset because also the people around me in auditions, they got they water jug, they got their fruit, they whatever, they're fueling themselves. So I'm like, if I'm going to be in this world, I have to learn. And I didn't know this I know this now. I learned this year or this past year, but I was on the start of the journey to learning how to fuel my body with the goods instead of just
whatever.
Yeah.
No, that's a huge lesson. And a lot of times we don't learn it in college because there's the cafeteria, or as we called it, the caf, there's the fast food. It's like the closest, most convenient things, and those aren't necessarily the best things to fuel your body and your performance.
Yeah, and I think even with that, I just developed horrible body dysmorphia in college. Horrible body dysmorphia.
We are all still working through that. Let me tell you.
It was just interesting. So then when I went into Hamilton, even like my last final dance callback. I had a conversation with Stephanie. She was like, "You look amazing." I was like, "Thank you." I don't notice it, of course, but it was just like I just try something different. And I think, and I wouldn't say that had to do with why I booked it, but I think it to them it seemed like, oh, she looks different, she looks healthier, so it's just a different, different side of me. But even after when I did that, I found out maybe like the week later, the next week, I found out I booked it.
Hey.
And I had just had a mental breakdown. My mom on the phone. I just got off the phone with her. I was praying. I was touching. I had the Hamilton playbook on my wall, and I was touching it. I was praying, and I got a phone call from my agent, literally in the same minute, and it was insane. But I still had to go to work. 30 minutes later,
Right.
And I told them I was crying because they knew they had been there with throughout the whole journey. And I told them straight up, I said, "I'm not here to be a server. I'm here to be on Broadway." And it was like, "Okay, great. Thank you for that."
Yeah.
So from there, I after I found out I booked it, I came to ASU to do a master class.
Yes.
Because I was like, if I got this, so now I need to go back and share what I've learned before I go on tour. Because I know if I'm going on tour, I'm not gonna have time to do this. So
I mean, that's amazing too. Like you realize like that was a sacrifice too, because you could have spent that time with your family. Yes, that part too. Definitely that part. And I mean, but to know that there was so much that was invested in you and that this was a level that you had reached because you had a good foundation, but also as an extension of that, you learned so much that you would not have experienced otherwise. And so like for real, kudos to you. Flowers for sharing that with the next generation.
So I was like,
No, and they ate it up. I remember they ate that up.
I have to go back. I just learned this in the last 6 months, and it's
Crucial.
Yeah, we're not learning that even now, and that was almost what 6 years ago, maybe. We're not learning that down south. We're not even how it is now for auditions. We're behind.
Yeah.
They don't know what it is, and it sucks. So yeah, man, I'm gonna do my best.
No, you are doing it. You are absolutely doing it. So you spent 3 years on tour with Hamilton. That is absolutely amazing. And I, thankfully I got the opportunity to get to see you actually at the Fox in Atlanta. Got to bring my cousin even with me. That was her first time seeing Hamilton. But like there's so many things about being able to see people who look like you in a space that you only imagine yourself being in. So not only am I thankful that you have taken up the torch of passing those things down, but also like really owning yourself, owning your space on the stage. Because I remember the conversation that you had with some of the students after that show that I attended was that you didn't see anybody else that looked like you on the stage. And so that was one of the reasons why you knew that you had to be there, because somebody else needed to be able to see like this is possible.
Yeah. And I think when I did boot camp, I only saw there was one girl, her name is Johanna. I always get it spelled wrong or like said wrong. But she was a swing, and ironically, she was on stage that week. And she's younger than me. And I remember seeing her like on the street, just like passing her. And I hugged her like she was like my sister, like my cousin. I was like, "Girl, you are amazing." Like amazing. And it's just because I only saw her, curvy, dark skin with braids, in this huge show. Like, mind you, I didn't know about him until it first came out.
Right.
I only found out about him when I started auditioning
for
it. And so then when I got into Hamilton, even when I first got there, like on tour, I didn't know how big it was. I just knew that, okay.
And it was still fairly new.
Yeah, it was still fairly new. So I was just like, okay, this is something big. Okay. And then when I got there, and oh my gosh, on my first day, I didn't realize that at that point in the tour that I was on, they needed somebody dark skinned or black presenting on stage. And I didn't realize that they were looking for somebody that looked just like me. And not only looked just like me, but was me. Like in every way.
Yeah.
So I remember on my first day, everyone in the company they were just so welcoming. And I had like a turban. I had I had a little fit on, like a little workout fit, but I had my hoops on. And it was like, oh, you,
It's you.
you the sis. You like from the jump. And I was just like, yeah. Like, where you from? I'm from Atlanta. Got okay. But that's people. I feel like it's unfortunate. Well, I wouldn't say it's unfortunate, but I feel like some things like that can be an insecurity for some people, and can sometimes some may see as negative
And limiting.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, you show up
as yourself,
right? But also, I'm like, but when I put that corset on and them tights and the mic on and the red lip, I'm just
it's a
like
wrap.
everyone else. But also, I'm doing my show in this show's world.
Yeah.
I'm still on the same beat. I'm still on the same key. And I may even get a little sass when they let us, because that's also a part of
the show
itself. And that's why I was so grateful.
And it's also a part of performing and not to cut you off, but like the idea that you have to be someone else while being someone else. I think that a lot of performers sometimes they get lost in, like, there's been plenty of times where people, they quote unquote lose their accent. Or they completely disregard the dialect, or all of a sudden they can't get down into the groove like their grandparents can. And it's like, no, these things are all of value. How and where you place them is what you decide, not just to eliminate them entirely. And I think like that's really, a compliment to you of being able to take your full self into this space that is a Hamilton.
Yeah, and I was so grateful because that was my first. Well, no, Hairspray was my first like professional, like, as an adult show, and in that, I mean, I'm playing Negro kids, so I could be myself throughout the whole thing. I didn't have to be anyone else, and it just felt good. So go from that to Hamilton, it was like, okay, you want me to be myself? What? You sure? You sure? On the freestyle, I can do whatever I want to do. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's just finding how to be yourself, but also learning what yourself looks like or feels like or walks like in a certain story or in a certain time frame. So even
come on.
Period. But even I think I at 20, well, how was I? I was 23.
Yeah.
I was 22, turning 23. No, I was maybe I was
23.
Yes, I was 23. And my debut self and my 2023 self, a total different show. Like me on my debut and me after the show that you saw after the pandemic.
Yeah.
Total different person, but I feel like I was still very young. Like I was not even 27, 26 during Hamilton. And I feel like Hamilton is such a mature show where you have to really you have so much room to grow. I feel like there's only one point in time where I felt like, okay, like this is not the norm of I have to do this same show 100 shows in a row. So am I getting bored? How do I do, but I think it's finding those moments where you can, okay, maybe you can balance for a little bit more, or maybe you can be in this bag. Maybe you could do, find different nuances in the show without being distracting, but just trying to grow in every aspect in the show. I feel like the one thing that I wish I would have taken advantage of on tour would have been using my resources better. So for instance, I had people on tour that were vocal coaches, acting coaches, I used them. I did like engage and like learn things from them, but I wish I would have done it a little bit more. Only because I feel like after being on Hamilton for the amount of years that I was on it, and there's people that I was starting with that are still there. They're there. There for 6, 8 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And it's like I feel like I graduated from my master's. Literally, because the amount of information that I learned was so valuable to how it was when I stepped into New York again. So then it was like, okay, I'm back in New York. I have to start all over. It's not like I'm here. I got to start all over, which was eye-opening.
But you had the wisdom, the knowledge, the experience to be able to do that with fresher eyes and a plan.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. So now you have traversed the pandemic while on tour, and now you have originated a role for production that is now set to be premiering off Broadway in just a couple of months. Please.
Yeah.
Goddess.
Yes. Goddess the musical. It is a journey to be a part of something that is new, and not only be a part of something that is new, but be a part of something that is constantly changing, constantly evolving in certain ways, and more importantly, the fact that I'm on stage with everyone Black, and I have to always remember that that is not everyone's journey.
No, or experience or testimony.
I have friends who have been on Broadway tours, Broadway shows, and they have always been the minority. And it's like, dang, I'm so sorry to hear that. Because I've never experienced that. Now, granted, I will experience it. And thankfully, I've been in spaces where I know how to still show up for myself, but also be loving to whoever's around me.
Right.
But being a part of Goddess has just shown me that I can push myself further in my artistry. So like Goddess is about the goddess of music. So it's a heavy music show, singing, vocals, all the things.
Beautiful arrangements.
Yes, amazing. So it's like, okay, Quiantae, how can you grow in this opportunity? Are you just going to be in the ensemble as a dancer and just do your thing and leave the show and do that? Or are you going to grow in the opportunity to advance your creativity? So that's been the conversation that I had with myself within this last couple of months, because I was like, I can't go into this experience and this amazing experience about an African myth that is a real thing that they believe in Mombasa, and not come into it authentically, and come into it not not being willing to change or grow in some kind of way. I've been a part of this show since 2022, and it's just now coming to New York City. So
where was it previously?
It was at Berkeley Repertory Theater in Berkeley, California. And yeah, that was our first time having it like on stage, and it was great. It really it was kind of like how I grew up in YA, and it was all Black people, and that's where I found the love of African dance, because that was the style of dance that we did. And it was like, Cancer, you didn't know that you could do this. You would be doing
professionally.
Yeah. And I didn't see that until I saw Fela on Broadway. But then to now, because Fela is not here, I was like, I want to do an African musical on Broadway. And then now to be in this show is like.
You know, it's also interesting. Mythology is meant to teach us. Like there's a lot of the moral of the story, or lots of lessons that you can learn. And so the fact that you are also learning how to advocate, reinvest, and develop yourself inside performing the mythology of Mombasa's story, and the story of, from Mombasa. Like, I think it's also very telling of how, art reflects life, and then life reflects art when there's no other choice. Oh, yeah. And so to hear, it's so lovely to hear how this is also enhancing levels of your own experience and your professional development for yourself and your artistry. I cannot wait to see it off Broadway.
I cannot wait to just experience it in the way that it's meant to be experienced. Like this show, our director Sahim Ali, he is the person who created the story. Because he's from Kenya, Mombasa. So to see him talk about it, and to just hear him talk about the journey of how long it's been. It'll be almost, I think he said 13 years he's been working on this show. So to be a part of it now, and for it to be at the Public Theater, which has a huge just collection of amazing shows, it's just like, I mean, New York is ready, but I don't think people are ready. Only because
they don't know they're not ready.
No, only because, and granted, yes, I'm biased, but it's the fact that it's an original show. It's an original show. The music is amazing. Original music all black cast. And yes, that happens, but I feel like not only Broadway, but the world just needs a show that's purely about love, and that's exactly what it's about. It's about music, but it's about love. And like not only love for others, but like how do you show up to love yourself?
Oh. Oh. Yeah. Well, on that note, do you have any suggestion, any wisdom, any thoughts on how artists, regardless of what level that they are in terms of their journey, can develop themselves, but also continue to learn and to love themselves through their journey?
Mhm. Advice, advice for.
Yeah, sure. Anything you got?
um, I think the main thing, one of the main things is, of course, being consistent, being disciplined. But I feel like sometimes hearing that can just sound so surface level.
Hmm.
But I think what I have learned, even post pandemic was a huge like like flashing lights thing for me. Like, hey, this is happening in your life. Check it.
Yeah, engine light on.
Yeah. So I feel like being disciplined in learning how to love yourself, because if I didn't start to love myself, I wouldn't be able to enjoy food. I wouldn't be able to enjoy dance class the way I enjoy dance class, enjoy auditions, enjoy just self-care for myself, enjoy cooking, fuel, but like just anything, just being able to enjoy what I do for myself to be able to show up.
Hmm.
If I don't enjoy that, if I don't be present in that, going to auditions, going on, being on stage, all that is kind of very surface level. You ever see those performers or dancers or whoever, and it's like, there's something there.
They're doing the step, but
Yeah, and I think for me, it's rooted in who I am as a person, which is why I now don't take me dancing in the slightest bit for granted. For instance, example, side note, me and Aaron, my husband Aaron, we went to Stone Mountain, and I listened to music, and I had gotten to a certain level, and the music was bumping, and I literally thought to myself, I was like, these people probably think I'm crazy. I'm like jigging, and I'm just like, but no, like, why should I dim my joy
mm,
because people might see me and think that I'm crazy or whatever? Like, so I said to say, like, finding any opportunity to either you're sharing with yourself, your creativity, exploring your creativity. I remember I thought that I was a certain type of like dance instructor, or I only do jazz, I only do African. Meanwhile, I'm in my homeboy's class and I'm jigging like into it, and it's fun. I am enjoying the opportunity to just move. So I think enjoying all parts of your creativity and not try to limit yourself, because I don't like it when people try to say, "Oh, you just a Broadway girl. Oh, you can only belt. You can't sing falsetto, or you can't do point, or you can't." I don't like when people do that.
yeah.
Don't do that. Or like I go to an audition and someone says, "This ain't for us, girl." Hold
Who?
on. I'm here for dance class. I don't care about the job. I'm here for the dance. Like, I think it's really just being grateful that you can even be in the room. And I learned this from my friend Michael Wortley. Love him down. Like, one of the people who really poured
Yes.
into me when I moved to New York City. He told me, book the room, girl. Book the room. The job is
Mm-hmm.
on top of that, but booking the room is the main thing that I feel like keeps you going in a world of rejection as well. because the amount. Let me tell you.
So many quotables.
The amount of auditions that I have gone on since leaving Hamilton.
Endless counts, because I feel like every time that I either text you or call you during the week, you're like, okay, I'll call you back. Oh, sorry, my bad. I delay. I just got an audition. Like that is your everyday all day long.
Every day, all day, literally. And I think when I left Hamilton to start Goddess Journey in New York City. And it was a challenge because I was like, okay, I'm going to leave my secure job to go on a journey with a workshop or whatever that's not like definite in New York City.
Doesn't have definite dates yet.
Yeah,
Or theater.
so I'm just like, okay, this is a little scary, but I'm gonna just go on and do it because I really don't have an option. It's not really like I'm gonna just stay in. No, I really didn't have an option. Like,
And you wanted this.
yeah, I wanted it. So starting over in New York City, not being afraid to start over and not being afraid to put your pride aside, because I was in those auditions, have been in those auditions, still in those auditions in an ECC, got the resume of whatever.
Yeah.
And don't even have the longest resume in the room. But some be like, oh, aren't you in this and that? And I'm like, yeah. Like, I saw you in the thing for this. You sure did. You sure did.
But
Like,
here I am.
yeah, not being afraid to put your pride aside, to just show up. Because sometimes showing up is all that it takes. Because they probably have already seen you on such and such, or seen you with, they probably have already done that. Showing up for yourself, but also showing up to not judge everything that's going on around you, but focus on booking the room. Booking the room could literally mean making a connection with the choreographer, saying thank you so much.
Yes.
Booking the room because you actually,
And as a choreographer, I remember the people that were trying to or connected with me.
Booking the room is also going into getting out your car, getting onto the premises of the space and changing your mental, changing your attitude, not going in, getting with a homegirl and kikiing about what's negative about why y'all there. That's not booking the room because you never know who may hear you.
That part.
Booking the room, always being consistent with, trying to be consistent with like your everyday self-care. I've learned from my husband to give myself grace because I'm only human. And if I want Oreo cookie, I'm gonna have an Oreo cookie.
And that's not going to like end your entire career. One Oreo cookie.
Right. But then also with that, also think about, okay, if I'm gonna have this Oreo cookie, let me get some water or some fruit with that.
Creating the balance for yourself.
Yeah, because also just always fueling yourself. If that's with freaking therapy, if that's with going to dance class, going to yoga, whatever, like fueling yourself, I think is the biggest thing. Because in today's time, even now, like if like say you're auditioning in New York City, auditions are not popping right now. Like there are rarely auditions right now.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of shows that are not staying open as long. People are just staying where they're at. They're not leaving shows. So it's very not existent at the moment.
It's a little slow.
Yeah, for sure. And then even I think it's difficult in that way because like, so you don't have anything else going on. So it was a time that I was like, I gotta find something else to do. I gotta find the other interests that I like, because clearly I can't depend on just this type of industry.
Because you can't control it either.
You can't control it either. So you have to find other things. And I would say for people that in Atlanta specifically, find a way outside of Atlanta. Go somewhere else for a moment.
Or if you're outside of anywhere that does not have the opportunities that are in the market of what you want to be doing professionally. Yeah.
Making great relationships. You don't have to be bestie with people, but just creating a community of people that you can learn from. It was even I did Jason Williams experience. It was a class I was taking in New York City, and he did a concert, and it was amazing, amazing concert. And I auditioned for it because I was like, I just want to dance. Like I'm not here for all the I'm here to dance because I have not danced since. And this was in 2024, like February 2024. So I hadn't been on stage since Hamilton. I did some commercials, but before that, it was just Hamilton. So I was like, I just want to dance, like, just want to be on my leg, do something. And the family that I gained was such an amazing experience because we had all been in his classes. We had all just been freelancing around New York City. And it was another avenue outside of Broadway.
Yeah,
So
you had an outlet.
Yeah, it was
and community.
Absolutely. So that's what I'm learning, like not because granted, I feel like when I set goals, I'm like, that's what I'm doing. Everything else, I ain't doing it. I'm doing this. Okay?
You're very absolute.
That's that. But I think now it's like to know that I already said that I'm doing that, and I've already had dreams of me on stage doing that. I've already talked to God about that. God has already talked to me about that. It's going to happen. But
Hello.
Also, this opportunity is right here in your lap. Find some enjoyment out of it.
It could be a part of your path.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
So
along the way.
It's there's so much that I have learned over this last year or 2 years, and I've been like just like I would say freelance, I guess, in New York City. While it's like it's hard to say freelance because I'm in Goddess, but it's like freelance to a certain degree.
You have contracts.
Yeah, a contract.
Yeah. Well, I have to say that Quiantae, I'm so proud of you. And I am very privileged to not only call you, one of my former students, but also to call you a sister. Because, I feel like you've helped me mature in ways that prior to coming to Alabama State, that I was like, this is what it feels like to help and also be in some ways validated, because it was like I was able to see immediately if what I was teaching was or was not doing its thing. And it was like, oh, okay, all right, they can actually take a lot more. Let's go. And so to see that you have surpassed all of the spaces that you initially were a part of. And you've taken those things, you've elevated your mind, you've elevated your level of discipline in a way that has you on this journey that not only are you able to benefit from, and you're able to grow, and you're able to increase your reach, but you're also able to give back, and you've been doing that. And I'm just so proud. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Yes, girl.
Yeah, for sure. Give back.
No, you were doing it.
And I think that's the thing that I've been grateful for, being able to come home as much as I've had, like this last
holiday season.
Yeah, because I've been able to, even with auditioning, I'll find time to just be back in Atlanta and just talk to whoever. Even I talked to my very first course teacher. She put me into musical theater.
Wow.
She told me about a Wizard of Oz audition, and I booked it. And ever since then, we've been like this. She came to the wedding too, and she wanted me to come talk to her students because her students just were not interested in anything arts at all. And I was talking to them, and it was clearly going over their head, but some of them were interested. And I was just talking to them about these different opportunities. Like, yeah, you can make 6 figures being a drummer on Broadway, or different things. And they're like, what? I can play in the band.
Yes.
It's just so it's you would think that New York, Atlanta it's like, oh, we're right there. It's such a different scope.
But just like
places, it is better, but it's different.
Cost of living, definitely. But I would say, just like you got that exposure and it was just a seed that was planted for Wizard of Oz, like decades later, look at what you're doing now.
That was my very first
musical production.
Yeah, and I had a whole little solo. I was a coroner. I came and told the witch was dead. And it was my very first one. I was like, this is nice. So yeah, it's for sure been a full circle moment, and I was telling Aaron, I was like, I'm very excited for this year alone because I feel like there's if I got through last year,
Honey.
I feel like this year
Oh, yeah.
I am open to way more possibilities instead of just like I want to do this though. I want to do this. That's how it was with concert dance. I want to do this. I want to do this. I
Yeah.
wanna do
And then you
this.
see on the other side of opening yourself up, look how
Mhm.
amazing
Mhm.
life has been.
Mhm.
So no, I'm also looking forward to
Yeah.
what's coming on the horizon. Yeah, well, we will end it there. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. You gotta
Let's
have a song.
give a little jig. Hey, hey.